Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk.
You get to say it, huh? Well, I'm Chip.
Well, you were too quiet for too long. We had dead air.
I didn't even see you. We had problems with the introduction. This new system still has a few bugs in it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. It is Friday in the Rev, and we got a ton of stuff to talk
And
about.
it's going to be a hot day out there today.
I know it's going to be brutal. So stay hydrated.
Brutally
stay
hot.
hydrated.
Yeah.
And we got a lot to talk about because the only person more dangerous behind a mic than Joe, the only person almost as dangerous behind a live mic is Paul Coogan. So we went on a radio yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, and he made a few controversial little faux pas. They weren't really faux pas. They were just kind of Freudian slips because it really showed how he feels about things. First one was, I guess, Nelson called and asked him why he hadn't received his public records request on the numbers on a debt payment. And his answer was, well, I'm not in the loop. You're not in the loop. You're the mayor. Apparently, he never heard the adage, the buck stops here. And not only that, it's an appropriation of money. And who sends that appropriation down to the council? The mayor. The mayor. The financial team works for him. But that's Paul. I gave it to Catholic Social Services. It's this one. He loves to deflect and not take responsibility for anything because he has no leadership. So his excuse, but there's always an excuse. Well, I'm not in the loop. You're not in the loop. It's one of the biggest financial issues the city of Fall River is facing. But you're not in the loop? That's inexcusable to have an answer like that. You're not in the loop. You should know exactly to the penny what we've paid on that debt. You're the guy who got us that debt. So that's the first one. So, CJ, I'm sure you got a couple things to say about this.
Well, what's very interesting about it is the fact that we asked last year for these numbers. Remember?
Yeah, it was too hard.
Yeah, and we were told exactly that it was too hard to provide those numbers to the taxpayers. And there's no place on the tax bill to put it. They can put other things on the tax bill. They can put other things on the water bill. Why can't they put this on the tax bill? And the mayor keeps saying that he's paying half of the debt exclusion out of city money. Yet we have no proof of that. Because I guess he's not in the loop.
That's true. Yeah, he is loopy, but he's not in the loop. But, the reality is that they have a fiduciary obligation. But see, we don't have the money. If we took them to court, we could force them to give us all the numbers because our budget is our budget. It's our tax money. And I have case law that clearly states that they have a fiduciary obligation, requirement to give us the numbers. Everything pertinent because it's our tax money. But again, we don't care. So, but of course, then I guess we segued into the next one. I guess they started talking about lack of educational attainment here. And I guess he doubled down on, you remember his previous comment he made early in his tenure as mayor when he said it was the minorities that are causing the lack of academic progress in Fall River and where our standing is, which frankly, if you look at it on face value, it's kind of a racist comment.
No question about it. And
saying that
he identified a specific group, a specific minority group when he made these comments recently. Okay? He said the reason why the Fall River public schools are not doing well, this isn't a quote, I'm paraphrasing, is because of the increase in Hispanics in the school system. Well, when I was in the school system, we had an increase in the Portuguese community. but they seem to do very well in the school department. Well, all of a sudden the Hispanics can't do it? This is getting to be a little iffy. This is getting to be a little questionable. And to me, it's very racist, very, very racist.
Yeah, and he also said, and I believe that Jordan James Sylvia put up. I'm trying to look at the post, but I've got so many posts here that. But I believe he said on one of the shows that he identified Hispanics, but I think previously he said minorities early in his career. He talked, but now, but you know, the thing that disturbs me is here's a guy that spent his entire life as a pseudo educator. I'm not going to call him an educator because he really never taught really in a classroom for any length of time, and he had some paperwork job, and then he became a vice principal and collected his check regardless of whether he was efficient or inefficient. But isn't it an educational system's job to figure out how to educate people?
Just a little bit.
You know, you think that you can't use that as an excuse? What is he implying? That Hispanic people are not as smart as other people? That they can't be educated? I mean, that's really, really, I mean, talk about being a comment that's so inappropriate, especially in today's society. But you're saying that it's because of them. How about it's because of the educational system can't figure out a way to do their job? He can figure out a way to create 4 new supervisors to replace 1 supervisor and give them a big fat paycheck. Our school budget always grows and grows and grows with giant salaries, but they can't figure out a way to do their job, which is educate our children. So, I mean, you know, like, give him a mic. The only guy worse than him is Biden, because he just keeps showing that he's an elitist. He does the same thing with the rents. They talked about rents, and he made a comment that I think I got that one. Let's see if I get that. I think I got that one somewhere. Yeah, Jordan James Sylvia for Fall River. Just now on Jeff Leary's show on WSAR, I told Paul Coogan that people in Florida are getting crushed financially due to rents, other costs of living increases. He said he disagrees. What do you think? He also boasted about the affordability of $1,700 to $1,800 per month 1-bedroom apartments in Fall River compared to other cities and towns. Listen, does he think everybody is as dumb as he is? Yeah, that's a great affordable apartment for Kenny Fiola, for him with his pension and $120,000 income. But let's do the numbers. I read that thing and I did some numbers. And this is current because I did it this morning before the show. 1-bedroom apartments normally for 1 individual or 2, but we'll say 1 single. The United States Census Bureau this morning for the per capita income in Fall River said it was $28,541. If you get an $1,800 1-bedroom apartment after you pay your rent for the year, okay, you will fundamentally have $87 a week to, because you take your rent, subtract it, you're going to end up with $87.32 a week for the rest of your bills. So if you have 1 grinder a week, if you go down to the sub shop and get a sub, which are around $10, that's $70. So the average Fall Riverite will have $17.32 a week to pay all the rest of their bills. But Paul thinks they're affordable. No, what that code is, that I'm an elitist, I want 80,000 people out of the 95,000 to move, get out of the city. because I think that people should be able to afford it, but they can't. He doesn't know his own community. We have nearly a 20% of our population living in poverty, below the poverty level. Our average per capita income is $28,000. And you can afford a $1,700 to $1,800 one bedroom and a $2,000. If you get a $2,000 for a family, and I did those numbers, it is staggering too. The newest figure for family income is $49,613. Subtract $24,000 if you get $2,000 because you're going to get multiple bedroom. It'll be higher than that because it'll continue to go up. Leaves you $25,000 for a family of four. That's $492 a week. $123.14 per person. And if everybody has a grinder once a day for 7 days a week, you'll have basically $212. And individually, that's $53 a week per person after you eat one grinder every day and pay your rent. And you look at these median incomes, and a mayor has the temerity, the audacity to get and say things like this. He's touting our rent in comparison to other cities. Well, let's look at what other cities make, Paul. The household income in Fall River is $48,000. You know what it is in Somerset? $82,000. Of course they can absorb higher rents. Newton's $165,000 rather than $48,000. Of course, you're comparing apples and oranges. You're trying to con the people, but the people who are getting pushed out of their houses know this. And I just hope they turn out to the polls to show that you can urinate on their head, but don't try to convince them it's raining.
You know, what's very interesting is, we say this all the time about make sure you get to the polls. There's no excuse why you can't vote, because you can get a ballot mailed to you and you can vote from home. So if, and I make this a big if, but, history dictates that it will probably happen. If there is a low voter turnout for the election, the odds are Paul Coogan will be reelected, because Fall River doesn't like change. These are all the same people who bitch, piss, and moan about the fact that the rents are so high, the cost of living is so high, we can't live here, what's going on, and they don't put the blame where it belongs. Okay? I'm not going to say that Paul's responsible for the high rents. Okay? That was the market. Apartments are rare to find everywhere, so because of that, it generated a high.
Well, I got to disagree.
Well, let me finish. It generated a high rent. I don't think it generated a rent of $2,000, but I think that a substantial increase in the rent was probably coming. If you were paying $700 before, they may take you up to $1,000, $1,200 because of the shortness of apartments. But Paul believes that because we got the train coming and because we got all this market rate housing, that this is what it's gonna do for us, and people are gonna want to live here. No, the criminals are gonna want to live here. Okay, that's what's gonna want to live here. People don't want to live in Fall River. I was speaking to somebody who was from Fall River yesterday, who now lives in Florida and will be moving to Colorado because he can't stand the politics in Florida. And I said, yeah, the train's coming into the city in a couple of months, and the rents are now $1,700 to $2,000 a month, depending if you get a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom. I said, and people can't afford to live here. And the mayor thinks that we're going to bring everyone down here from Boston and Framingham and Worcester and everywhere else to live in Fall River because they want to live here. And the person I was on the phone with said, who the F does he think he is? Nobody's going to want to live in Fall River. It has nothing to offer. That's why when I got out of that town, I never went back. That's what people from Fall River say once they leave this city, that they're out and they don't want to come back. And that speaks volumes. And that's the thing you've got to overcome, Paul. You've got to overcome the fact that people don't want to look at Fall River anymore because Fall River doesn't do anything for them and never did anything for them. And this person, by the way, is military. This person, or I should say, was military. And this person is well educated. So why couldn't somebody who's been well trained in the military and who's well educated want to come to Fall River? Why? There are no jobs. The city has nothing to offer. I mean, we don't have a nightlife. We really don't. And we just have the Narrows. And everyone says, oh, the Narrows is wonderful. The Narrows is wonderful. I've yet to see anything at the Narrows that I want to go see or that I want to view. And when I went to the Narrows, the one time I did, it was difficult finding parking because there's no parking down there. So what do? Okay. The mayor is working to destroy neighborhoods like the Flint Neighborhood Association, which is going to be very hard to do because the Flint Neighborhood Association is very strong. He may take their building, okay, but he's not going to get rid of that neighborhood association. And remember something, that neighborhood association knows, Paul, that you are taking that building. You personally, you are the one that made the decision. You're the one taking the building. Therefore, the people in the Flint are going to say, the hell with Paul, I'm not voting for him because I want that building in my city, in my community. And that's what's going to happen. And that is truly the way it should be. If your politicians don't support you, support your needs, and support your community, that politician needs to disappear.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you just gave yourself a pretty good in to be the Paul's press agent or his one of his speechwriters, because you're giving him far too much latitude, in my opinion. But you're entitled to your opinion, so I'll go there first because you've put in time to help people in this city. You've done things for people in Fall River, as have I, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But some opinions are more important than others. People that, like you, who've done things for the community, and I still do things for the retirees and things, and everybody knows that. It's like if you're going to listen to somebody talk about how you can improve your golf game, you should give a little bit more merit to what Tiger Woods tells you than some guy that shoots 175 on a golf course. We have people who make a lot of negative comments, but if you look at their resume and you compare what they've ever done for free for the people of Fall River, you find out they didn't really give any time to the city. They might have done time, but they've never given any time of their own to the community. With that being said, they still have a right to their opinion. But now, let me just talk. I blame Paul expressly for this. Paul has been a malingerer his whole life. He got a job through politics. He stayed there for 30 years. He had no accountability. He collected a big fat salary, and he was handpicked to be their puppet mayor. He meets almost daily on New Boston Road with the Fiolas, with Kenny Fiola to get his marching orders. He, at the behest of his puppeteers, brought all these developers in. Yeah, rents are always going to go up. Everything goes up to a degree. But they had massive jumps because of all these predatory developers coming in here and buying up all the property, elevating the prices, elevating the rents astronomically. I don't think you can find a community in the country that has this type of escalation in its rents. And it's all Paul's fault. And he continues to prove it by trying to justify it. Oh, don't worry. People can afford these rents. They're low. They're lower than they are in Newton. No kidding. Newton only makes 4 times. They only have 4 times, or more than 4 times, actually closer to 5 times the household incomes. I mean, you can tell he spent his whole life in his school getting a paycheck for doing virtually nothing because he lives in an alternate universe. They got their paycheck whether they screwed up or not. They got their paycheck because, hey, He can't do the job. We'll hire 2 other people to do it, and we'll give him some other job shuffling papers somewhere. We'll put 4 people to supervise the same amount of people one person has been supervising for the last 20 years because we know those other 3 people. You know, this is crap. Let's pin this on the guy who belongs there. He still doesn't acknowledge that we need enough affordable housing. You mentioned the market. To deal with the market we have for affordable housing in Fall River, which is the majority of people. What's Newton's poverty level? 3, 2? Ours is 20%. Nearly 20. It's 19 point something or others. Let's go 20 so we can do easy math. That's 2 out of every 10 people in the city of Fall River are living below the poverty level. And the rest, the median, is living well below the average per capita and household income in the state of Massachusetts. So you're going to tell me a mayor that's walking around denying we have crime, denying that, making an excuse for the educational system that he spent his life in, and he's now the chairman of the school committee, and they never talk about being 335th. They always got to, it's the Hispanics, it's the rain, the building. It was the building. If we build this building, everybody's going to get smarter. Build this school. Get this bill. It's going to be smarter. And who did that? Paul Coogan. He was the guy that pushed it and pushed the debt override. And as he acknowledged, they're building more affordable housing in Somerset, a community of 18,000 people, than we are in Fall River for 95,000 people, most of whom in this city need affordable housing. Jordan Sylvia is right. I'm not going to give him any slack because he doesn't deserve any slack. He's never faced an issue and admitted it. He still hasn't ever talked about the chaos in the school department. He still has not admitted we have a major crime issue. And he won't admit he thinks it's fine. He wants poor people out. And I got news for you, Paul. You're not going to remove 80% of the population in this city and replace it with yuppies from Boston and Wellesley, because they're not. Because if they can afford the rent in Fall River, they can afford it in Swansea and Somerset and Dighton and Braintree and all the communities between Boston and Fall River that have low crime and better educational systems. So, you know, you can give them all the slack you want. You and I disagree on this point, and I blame it expressly on the puppet that we have for a mayor. Because all we have to do is look upward at the federal government and see how this country was destroyed by a non-functional president. And you'll see the real answer to the problem. He's not running the show, and neither is Paul.
Well, you know, I've got to agree with you there that, you know, somebody's got to take the heat. Somebody's got to take the responsibility.
You mean like the buck stops here? He never heard that one.
I know. The buck does stop here, and he's got to accept the responsibility for his actions, whether he likes or lack thereof, whether he likes it or not. And you're not going to tell me that the school department all of a sudden became non-performing because we've got more Hispanic students, okay? Which I still believe is a racist comment. And, you know, I've submitted numerous requests to the Office of the Inspector General, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Oversight Committees on ARPA money. And I've received emails back that, you know, we will look into this matter, we will investigate this matter, but nothing, you know, hard, no firm decision, no firm commitment to what's been going on in Fall River. And I know for a fact that there is a firm commitment from a federal agency that is looking into the actions of the administration and of certain city councilors in the city of Fall River. And it's been brought to their attention several times, and people are presenting hard evidence. And the hard evidence is being presented by Paul's people. This is the sad part about it. You know why? Because it's not going to be my backside. It's CYA time, people. And that's what Jaysla went through. Everyone started going through a CYA. Well, this is what they're going to do now. Okay? And when the state government says their biggest mistake was the HDIP program and this housing grant program that ended up being for market rate housing, you know that there's a problem when the state sees it. That program was supposed to be for affordable housing. The problem is there were a few legislators who got paid off in the form of campaign contributions and tickets and this, that, and the other thing to say, okay, let's make it for all housing development. Let's not just make it for affordable housing. Let's just not make it for workforce housing. Let's make it for all housing development. And that's where the developers stepped in and said, market rate housing, here we come. Yay, market rate housing. And this is why we're in the situation we're in. You can't blame the developers, but you can blame the elected officials. The only thing you can blame the developers for is, of course, being greedy and wanting to take advantage of a poor community, because that's what those programs are meant to benefit, poorer communities. But guess what? They never do. They never benefit the poor community. They always give the poor community the abrota.
Well, listen, obviously, I get more angry and emotional with this mayor than I ever have. And you know as well as I do, I have battled with virtually every mayor on issues that I disagree with. But I'm going to tell you what really disturbs me. What I see in this city and what I see in this country, a president that's doing absolutely nothing. Basically, everybody knows he's being run by other people. But what disturbs me about Paul Coogan, listen, he's not even politically astute enough to pretend he's doing something. I mean, when we had a crime problem under Flanagan's administration, what did he do? He coupled with the DA, and they put a clamp on. They really did put a dent in crime in Fall River. He acknowledged the problem. But most politicians will admit it. Yeah, we got a prime problem. We're going to do this. I'm going to get a study group. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We're working on it. Don't worry about it. That's what a real politician does. They move their lips and they lie just to make you think they're not avoiding the issue. Case in point, up in South Attleboro, when the Secretary of Transportation was up there and they pinned her about, you've been making promises to fix this eyesore for years. Oh, well, we know it's very important to you, and we're looking for the funding, and we're blah 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 blah. Nothing. She said nothing as she ran away from the microphone. But you can tell she's got some political savvy. They admit it. And then they make up something to pretend that they're actually going to try to fix it. They won't, but they pretend they will. But Paul Coogan doesn't even make the pretenses. He just marches to the orders of his rich friends and his rich handlers, his developer friends, his banker friends, his lawyer friends, and all the people who recessions and inflation and high rents don't bother because they all own their own homes. You think he's going to stay in that Bobby townhouse when he's no longer mayor? He has no commitment to the city of Fall River. The first thing he did when he retired was move out of the city of Fall River, move back in and run for political office, and he will no longer be a resident of the city of Fall River when he's no longer mayor. He'll be out of here like a vapor trail coming out of his butt. So that's what infuriates me about him. He won't even acknowledge it. All he does is deflect and blame other people. Oh, the education's Hispanic. You're right, CJ. We had failing schools long before we had Hispanics in his community, a major amount of Hispanics. At the beginning, of his tenure, he said it was the minorities, but maybe now he's looking for other minority votes because he's gotten some people on his campaign to try to get that vote. Maybe he just feels Hispanics don't vote because a lot of the Hispanics don't yet. But they will ultimately learn. Somebody might get them together, register them to vote, and tell them that he thinks they're the problem, not the educational system. It's always somebody else with Paul. That's what the school department does best. Deflect, hide, and don't fix. Just spend more money, throw more money, get more supervisors, get more personnel, and do even worse. And that's what they do because he won't crime. I don't have a bullet hole in my house. Shut up. Go away. Oh, we got a housing problem. We don't have a housing problem. You know what we got? We got a poor people problem. My solution is get out. Beat it. Where are they going to go? To Newton? Where the rents are higher? You just said it. We got the lowest rents around, and it's too high. These communities need affordable housing. You won't admit that. You think 2 or 3 units is enough. You won't talk about crime. You don't talk about education. You don't talk about anything. It's always a deflection with you. I have never seen a chief officer. You are the chief executive officer of this city. You are the supreme allied commander. And as Harry Truman said, the buck stops there. And for you to get on a radio and say, I'm not in the loop. You're not in the loop. You're the damn mayor. You're supposed to be briefed on everything. President of the United States, well, although we don't have a functional president now, but they're supposed to get briefed on everything. So you're going to tell me you're asked a financial question and your answer was, I'm not in the loop? So you let your financial team do all the numbers and you just send it down and sign your name to it? That's fiduciarily irresponsible. That's what infuriates me about him. He lacks so much leadership and he has so little political acumen that he doesn't even try to be a politician. He's just gone behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz, and now he only associates with his elitist friends, and everything he says shows they have a very specific picture of what they want Fall River to be. They want Fall River to be Newton. The North End wants every place to be like the North End. Well, we can't. You can't displace the majority and a vast majority of this community. Where are they going to go? Gateway communities are the last stop before you're living under a bridge. And it shows that you truly do not care. And that's what really pisses me off about him, because he doesn't care.
And remember, with Paul, you can't live under a bridge because he clears out the tent cities. So it always makes for an interesting time. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Try to stay cool. Remember to hydrate yourself. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We know we will. Hopefully you do. Have a great weekend.
And vote.